the strengths and weaknesses of the 2021 USC Trojans, the USC fan base, optimistic, pessimistic, or apathetic? Is the CFP playoff expansion a good thing or a bad thing? A San Jose State preview and predicting the scores of this week's Pac-12 games. Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Katz, and on behalf of this esteemed panel that I'm going to present to you shortly, we welcome you to the first edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle. Inside the Trojans Huddle is like a panel discussion group of knowledgeable USC people, mainly the WeAreSC.com staff. Many of you know who they are. You'll enjoy hearing from them. And the way this program is going to work is going to be fast-paced if we can keep it that way. The show, by the way, will run on Tuesdays throughout the college football season. So we first start off with the pregame show. So that means we're going to meet our panelists. And it's my pleasure to first welcome Chris Arledge, a WeAreSC columnist who writes the highly popular Musings with Arledge. Chris is a former all-conference defensive back and captain for the mighty William Jewell College Cardinals, 1992 through 94 in Liberty, Missouri. Chris, welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you. Next, many of you longtime Trojan fans are familiar with the name Kevin Bruce. Kevin is a WeAreSC columnist who writes the very well-received post-game analysis of games called Defensively Speaking. During his playing days at USC, he was a 1975 All-Conference USC linebacker and a team captain, I might add. And in 1974, he was wearing number 50. Kevin, who was known in his playing days as the Animal, was a starter on the 1974 Trojans national championship team under the legendary John McKay. Next, we have Erik McKinney, very familiar to you. Erik, you want to give a little wave to the folks out there in TV land?
Hi, everybody.
There you go. He's the well-respected publisher and editor-in-chief of WeAreSC.com, former West Coast recruiting guru at ESPN.com, and a graduate of the University of Southern California. Me, most of you know me as Greg Katz. I write 2 weekly columns for WeAreSC, one called The Obvious, Not So Obvious on Fridays, and on Sundays it's IMHO Sunday. I too wrote for a period of time for ESPN, and so here we all are. So let's get right into it, folks. The pregame warm-ups are done. We're going to finish up by asking our panel, when did you become a USC fan and why? So Kevin, start us off.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of easy. My first game I attended was the USC Purdue Rose Bowl. And I was just fell in love with USC at that time, which was, my dad took me to the game and he had played at the University of Washington and he was not keen about USC. And even as a young lad, I didn't care too much about that. It was USC or nothing. So that's when I became a fan. And then I really became a fan when it was time to decide on what school I wanted to attend and what scholarship I was going to accept.
Very good. Well, that's an interesting background. Chris, what about you? When did you become a USC fan and why?
1984. And by the way, Animal, thank you for that response. That was a good one. I'll never call him Kevin again now that I know his nickname. I became a fan in 1984. My family moved back to Southern California, and I had watched some USC games with my dad before that on television. But he took me to the Coliseum in September that year to watch LSU against USC. It was not pretty. I think Dalton Hilliard for LSU had 600-700 yards, maybe at a half. It was a beatdown, but I fell in love with USC football. I loved everything about it, the game, the stadium, the band, the song girls, all of it. And 1984 was a fun season in many respects. We had the upset over #1 Washington at the Coliseum, beating Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. So that was the season that did it for me, and I've been hooked ever since.
All right, good deal. All right, Erik, you're on.
You know, I grew up with grandparents that wound up going to every USC home game for about 55 years, and then a couple of away games too. So I knew USC was a football team before I knew it was a university or anything else. I think the thing that hooked me, I was at the '96 Rose Bowl, and we sat in front of Keyshawn Johnson's family while he did what he did down there on the field, and that was a fun experience. That kind of locked it in. But really, it was, again, you show up to the grandparents' house, that's what's on TV all day Saturday, and that's who we cheered for from the very beginning. So again, an easy thing to fall in love with when it's a situation like that.
Very good. Well, for me, it started in 1962. I was 12 years old, and my uncle Eddie, who had gone to USC, took me to the USC game. And the first time I walked through the section 9 with the Coliseum and the grass, and the team won the national championship in 1962. As I grew up, that's all I ever knew in our family was Cardinal and Gold and USC football games. And I was very fortunate to be able to go see USC practice under John McKay. I'm so old now that people look at me not as a writer, but a historian. I don't know if that's actually a good compliment at this point in time, but I've seen all the teams since the 1960s. It's a good thing to reach back on it. A lot of great memories. I think one of the greatest memories I had, however, was I did the 1996 Rose Bowl game in Pasadena, doing the public address between Northwestern and USC. And that was kind of like, wow, this is really cool. So, I've kind of spanned it, but it's a way of life for me as it is for you. It's a real passion. So I'm so glad to be around a lot of people such as yourselves that bleed Cardinal and Gold. So, all right. Well, that takes us through the pregame. Let's get right into the kickoff in the first quarter. We're going to start with Erik, since you're the editor-in-chief of this. Your overall outlook of the 2021 season, what do you see as USC's strengths? What do you see as your concerns?
I've been asked a lot heading into this year. What do you think about the team? What's going to happen? The best answer I can come up with is I don't know. This is going to be a team that there's a ton of talent all over the place. It's USC. There always is. There are some positions you talk about. I'm going to start with weaknesses instead of strength. Obviously, it's both lines. The offensive line, kind of overall, what does it do? I think you've got some potential answers there. I think we're going to see 2 young offensive tackles take over there, and then you've got a real veteran interior of that line. And then the other side, the defensive line. You know what you have on the outside. You know what you have on the edges, really, with that USC defense. What can you get from the middle there? And can you plug that up and be really good against the run up front? For me, those, and maybe they don't turn into weaknesses, but they feel like it coming into the season where you don't know what the answer is going to be. The strength is it's Drake London. He has been so good since spring in the fall. That connection between Keaton Slovis and Drake London. I don't know if anybody at any program, certainly in the Pac-12, maybe in the country, has a connection like that right now, quarterback to wide receiver. It's going to be one of those things where you got to appreciate every game that Drake London plays for USC this season. Probably the last season you're going to see him in Cardinal and Gold, and he is a good one. But you asked me about the overall outlook. There's so much that's still to be decided, and I do think, skipping all the way down to the end, this San Jose State game I think is going to tell us quite a bit about how this team comes out, how prepared they are, how physical they are. And gives us some answers there. I do think, again, a talented team. I think they're going to win a lot of games. Are they going to win enough games? That is the question that everybody wants to get an idea on. And at this point, I really want to see them against another team before I come out and say, yeah, they can get it done on both lines of scrimmage and they can do whatever they want sort of offensively.
All right, Chris, give us your view on it.
That was a waffly answer from McKinney, don't you think? He's the boss. He's supposed to know the answer. He says, I don't know. I know. I'll tell you what's going to happen. This team's going to throw the ball really well, like really well. I think they're going to defend the pass pretty well. The edge rushers are solid. The secondary is well coached and experienced. I think we're good there. There are 2 big issues, though. Can Keaton Slovis stay healthy? You're probably going to have 2 freshman tackles. The offensive line, until it shows otherwise, is a giant question mark. And let's be honest, USC hasn't been very good at mixing things up. They don't run the ball very well. They don't run screens or draws particularly well. They don't even try to run misdirection. They don't roll out the quarterback. You know what they're going to do 70% of the time. Keaton Slovis is going to be standing 5 to 7 yards behind the center throwing the ball. And that means that if you have some rushing talent and you commit to it, and they will, that you're going to get to them. I'm worried about that because he can really play and he's a tough kid, but he's been hurt already. And if you're playing a true freshman quarterback in a pass-happy system, then you are going to be a 500 team immediately. That's just the way it is. So that's the biggest issue for me. And the second one is related. Can you be an elite team if you can't run the ball and if you can't stop the run? Because I think this team's going to struggle on both counts. And I think the answer is no. You can be okay. You can go 8-4 with a team that can't really run and can't really stop the run. You can't go 11-1. So that's my issue.
All right, El Capitan, Mr. Kevin Bruce, tell us what you think, buddy.
Yeah, well, I don't live in the I don't know zone, but I'll tell you this is a highly talented team with a lot more question marks than not. However, that's why you play the game. That's why you keep score. We'll know, as to what Erik was saying, we'll know more after the first game. Clearly, after the second game, we'll have a pretty good read on what's going on. Chris pointed out a really fundamental dynamic, which is Slovis has got to stay healthy. Otherwise, we end up with Jackson Dart, right, at quarterback, which another true freshman, which, served us well when Slovis replaced JT Daniel when he went down. So that is a question mark for me. The run game stoppage and the A gap off the center. We're going to have to piece something together. We don't have the horses or to really accomplish that routinely. We're going to have to alternate. So we're going to have to do some stunting. I have some questions with respect to how effective we are when we do that kind of stunning, where we actually give up a gap and move things around. We do slant well. We don't stunt particularly well. We do have good pressure off the edge, I think. We know we have it with Drake Jackson. I'm not sure what we're going to see from Corey Foreman and Nick Figueroa, but I think, we're going to be pretty rock solid at the 5 technique and the 3 techniques positions for us. Secondary will be great. They really will. They'll play well. They're going to be part of the answer to stopping opposing teams' run games. And I think one of the secret weapons of this team is how good the special teams are going to be. We probably have one of the best, if not the best, special teams coach in the country. And we have a lot of really good, gifted athletes playing, just begging to get on the field, and they'll do anything to play. And these special teams, both, kick coverage, punt, which gives us the ability to have one of the team captains, Ben Griffiths, flip the field on some of our opponents, is really going to help us a lot. And there's other elements to the special team play that really going to help us. Hopefully we don't let the coaches get in the way of a good special teams play.
All right, well, I guess that brings me to myself. I have a lot of questions about this team. I have a lot of questions about the leadership, the adult leadership on it. Maybe it's because I coached for 27 years that I see things sometimes from a journalistic standpoint, but a coaching standpoint. I'm very concerned about the physicality on both sides of the ball. I think the defense will be aggressive. I think they'll be violent. I think that's what Todd Orlando teaches. He goes after it. I think the defensive line will be okay, but we'll find out against Stanford when they go mano a mano. The secondary should be strong. I think the linebackers, great story in Raymond Scott. Inside coming almost like a forgotten man, finding a position, which I think is great. My big concern is on the offense. I don't see any emotion like I see on defense. And when I was around McKay's teams, when I was around Pete Carroll's teams, like many of you have seen, they were violent on the offensive line. They took it to people. And now part of it was they had a coach, Tim Davis at the time, who was very into, God wants 3 yards and it's going to be that way, which was, really satisfying to watch. I think that Slovis, I don't know whether he'll last this season. We got to remember that offensive line is full of 3-star players. And, the difference between a 3-star player and a 4-star, a 5, it's athletic ability. You can go out and find a 6'5", 295, 300-pound guy almost on any of these teams, even bigger. It's the athletic ability. So I think the passing game will be fine. I think the running backs are fine. I just don't know if there's a commitment to running the ball. Well, no, I will say it. I don't think there is a commitment to running the ball. I'm sorry. The 60s just popped out. I mean, I have to tell it like it is. There's just no way that when I see, what's scary to me is when SC has it 1st and goal on the 2-yard line. Then I go, okay, if I close my eyes, I see 23 blast, or I see 28 pitch, and I get excited, but then all I see is a fade. And it bothers me. I think Chris hit on it perfectly. No misdirection, no draws, no screens, just stand back there like a puppet, almost like a human pinata. Now, I know I'm being very vocal in this, but I'm very passionate about it. And we will have a discussion down in the season about what you guys think of the air raid offense in the future. But let's come to the end of the first quarter and go right into the second quarter. All right. We've all been around the block with USC fans. We are ourselves part fans. All right. What do you think is the current pulse of the USC fan heading into the 2021 season? What do you think the fans' expectations are? What do you think will excite them? What do you think will honestly anger them? So we'll go with Kevin. You go ahead. You can lead us off on this.
I think initially the fans, from an angry perspective, is if you force them to wear a mask outside, they're going to be angry about that. Just as something I think is kind of noteworthy, a little bit controversial in some quarters, but yeah, I think going to an outdoor event and playing a football game and having a mask on, hopefully no one chokes on it when they're screaming and yelling. Importantly,
Kevin, the UCLA fans were so upset they didn't even show up the other day.
Yeah, well,
they were so upset about the masks.
Yeah, and nor did the San Jose State fans show up for their game, which they won in about the first end of the first quarter. Hey, look, the what to be excited about is every year it's a new year. We've got really good talent. We've got, we have good Trojans out the field. We're going to get a physical style of play on defense with good violence and physicality and those kinds of things. Hopefully it can be sustained. Offense, look, we're deadly from between the 20s. Problem is it's hard to score a lot of points between the 20s. So the question mark and what might upset folks is the inability, and it's been brought up earlier, the inability to for red zone conversion. I get nervous when we're on the 5-yard line. That's where, like, look, if you can't pound the rock, that's rough country. Just try to throw a fade pass. But it's not impossible. It's just difficult. We have the skills to do some things. I think the fans get bent out of shape when we start to put 9, 10, 11 penalties into a game. We play sloppy football, turn the ball over, put it on the ground, jump off sides as part of the penalty package. From a culture perspective, Clay Helton had done away with 2 years ago. Was the last thing I read. And we averaged over 9 penalties, or almost 9 penalties last season, shortened season. So those are the kinds of things where we end up not playing up to our level of skill, also losing games potentially that we should be winning. And for crying out loud, if we can't win our against our chief rivals, I don't get angry. I just, it's just a bad day, bad week, bad month, bad year.
All right, Eric, what do you say, Eric, as far as the pulse of the fans? How do you see it?
Can we just replay your response to the first quarter question? I mean, I think that's sort of it. There are two groups. I think there's a big part of the fan base that is excited. It's USC football. They're gonna go. They're gonna watch. They're gonna cheer and get in another season. Being able to go to the game. My hope is that kind of first game with fans in over a year, that there's a big crowd there and they're loud. And I think the players deserve that. There were a bunch of guys who that was their first year playing college football last year, and they haven't really been able to play in front of fans. So my hope is that there's that. But yeah, there's a huge chunk that is just beyond frustrated, and it's a vocal part of the fan base. And this team is going to have to do a lot to get those people on their side. And that's sort of where it is right now. It's a very USC football can be a very polarizing topic with how fans look at it. And that's the case. And a lot of fans aren't going to be convinced until you're talking about the trip to Notre Dame. If you get a win there, then there's some buy-in. There's going to be a lot of anger early on if things don't look great. A couple of the things that I think that fans can get really excited about, the transfer portal has made it so that players can come in, and you're not talking about true freshmen trying to make an impact. You're talking about guys who show up, and 2 months later, they're able to get on the field as veteran, experienced guys and go. USC's got a couple of those guys. They've got a couple running backs. I think Keontae Ingram is a guy, and USC fans were able to see him maybe a little bit in the spring. He's a guy that I think could generate a lot of fandom among the Trojan supporters. Darwin Barlow is a guy who came over from TCU, another running back. These guys are I think, going to be kind of fun guys to watch. Taj Washington, though, in terms of transfers, a little kind of speedy wide receiver. He has that kind of speed, agility, kind of quick twitch thing. It looks a little bit like when Adoree Jackson would have the ball in his hands, where when he touches the ball, you kind of have no idea on the field where he's going to wind up. He kind of, he has that chance to leave blockers and tacklers kind of all over the place. It's somebody that USC hasn't had in a while. So again, those are a few guys I think that could make some pretty quick impressions on USC fans. And then you've got kind of the standbys. I mentioned, Drake London. You've got a lot of guys coming back, a lot of veteran guys taking advantage of that extra year that the NCAA allowed. So there are some familiar faces and some new names. I think that mesh is going to be kind of fun and something USC fans can look forward to this year.
Okay, now, Chris, I know that you are very opinionated on, you are a passionate fan. I enjoy reading your column, I must tell you, but speak from the heart here. You're a true guy who played at the collegiate level. You're a fan. What do you think the USC fans are thinking right now?
All right, so there is a chance that it's going to turn pessimistic in a second. Okay, Greg, you're right. But I want to be positive first, because the reality is there's some great players on this team, some guys that we're probably not going to see after this year, other than on Sundays. It's always fun to watch somebody like Drake London play his last season at the school. It's fun. He's going to do some things that we're going to remember for a long time. He is going to abuse secondaries in the Pac-12 like Genghis Khan. That's what he's going to do, and we're going to enjoy it. Okay, so there are always some good things to look forward to. But if you're asking what the mood of the fan base is angry, and it's a good thing that it's still angry, because it's either going to be angry or apathetic at this point, like the Bruins, who don't even bother to show up anymore. They're so out to lunch that it looked like a Pop Warner crowd at the Rose Bowl last week. And the fan base is angry for a reason. I mean, look, imagine you were in charge of a racing team, all right? Maybe it's an IndyCar team. I know almost nothing about IndyCar. Let's imagine it's an IndyCar team. And let's say you have a mechanical problem with your car where the parking brake is on all the time. Not so much that the car can't move, but enough that it slows it down. And then imagine the people running the team decide what they're going to do is they're going to hire a bunch of new mechanics to try to increase the horsepower 10 or 15. They don't deal with the parking brake. And then they show up at the race. They can still beat some of the lesser teams, but they can't beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they never can reach their potential. What do you think the fans of that racing team would say? They'd be furious that you haven't solved the parking brake problem. USC refuses to solve the parking brake problem, okay? And until they do, there are going to be a bunch of people like me and others who are unhappy about it. That's what the fan base is saying.
All right, well, I'm gonna take it in a different step from my viewpoint. I think the problem is there is a standard at USC. Many of the fans have been through national championships. Many of the fans have been seen them all for a long time. They know what a national championship or a conference champion looks like. Okay, and when I say that is Clay Helton's teams are being measured against those teams. It does not help when you verbalize and you say, we're into championships. That's what we live for, is championships. That's how coaches and players are judged. Well, when you won one conference championship in 5 years, you're putting yourself in the crosshairs of having words come back to bite you. I say, I think if I was to sit there and constantly say over and over how many national titles we've won, my first comment is, how many have you won? Okay. And my thing is not to be snarky about it, but when you have a standard like USC, let's face it, we're all very fortunate to have been a part of one of truly college football's greatest and legendary programs. And when it is not functioning at a level that we have seen it in the past function, you get frustrated. Frustration is suppressed anger. And I think what's happened is maybe alluding to what Chris said a bit, do something about it. Maybe for some people that come to USC from out of the area to either coach or play, they don't get it. I tell you, I don't have to go to Alabama to know that they're passionate. And I know that Ohio State is passionate, and I know USC fans are passionate. So there is an expectation that is not being met. All right, we're at the end of the first half. We're going to have a little fun here, quick halftime break here. So here's my question to all of you. Short answers would be appreciated. And if you got to laugh, that's fine too. All right, during halftime of watching a USC game in person, what are you most likely to do? 1, go to concession stand. 2, go to the restroom. 3, text or call your friends regarding the first half of the game or all of the aforementioned. Quick answers from all of you. We'll start with Kevin. What do you do if you're at a game?
Well, I'm at the age where if I can number 1, number 2, I'm good on that. And I would continue to text.
You would continue to text. All right, Eric, what do you got for us?
Covering the game, there really is no halftime. By the time I realize what's going on after taking notes and doing all that, we're kicking off the third quarter. Usually I'm, also trying to talk you off a ledge, depending on how things are going, or calm you down. How either direction it went during that first half.
Don't accuse me of being an Arledge now. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. Chris?
Yeah, nobody cares what I do at halftime, but I'm going to tell you something that's not going to be popular with everybody. I am not a halftime show guy. I don't like the halftime show. I don't want to watch it. I love the spirit of Troy. I love what they do in the pregame. I love the Song Girls. I love Traveler. It's all fantastic. But I don't like it when marching bands play rock music. It doesn't make any sense. If Metallica was meant to be played by a marching band, it would have been written that way. We need to stop doing that. We need to find a new solution to that 15 minutes.
Well, you know what? You put a lot of pressure on the new band director. I think Art Barner is probably rolling over in his grave right about now, but he's still alive. As far as I'm concerned,
I didn't think he was dead.
When my personal things, like Eric said, I'm in the press box, but what's important to me is since I don't go down the elevator to the concession stand, it's really important that they bring out brownies and cookies so that I save them for after the game, so that when I'm writing, I have some energy. So that's what I do. And of course,
so you can wash down your gummy bears that way.
That's right. And as far as going to the restroom, there's only one restroom normally around the press section. So that gets to be like a 5 o'clock freeway in LA during rush hour. So you got to watch your step. Now, an adjunct to this, and again, quick answers. If you're not watching a game in person at USC, at a USC game, what do you do first? Do you make yourself a sandwich? Do you have a beer? Do you go to the restroom? Or do you call and text a friend about the first half? Chris?
How's the game going? I mean, if the game's going well, then I'll call somebody up and we'll have a fun conversation. If the game's going poorly, then I'll probably text Kevin Bruce and the two of us will send angry texts back and forth for 10 or 15 minutes. That's usually the way it works out.
Okay, Kev.
Yeah, I'm sending text to Chris, so that's how that rolls. And I can never eat when the game's being played. I'm sorry. I still have, I get the stomach all upset and I get nervous. So, and I have good reason to be.
All right, Erik.
Well, I listened to the Best of Queen as arranged by John Philip Sousa. It's a bunch of marching bands doing rock songs, just all halftime when I'm not at the game. Gotta have it.
That's the demographic they were shooting for. It's McKinney. I had no idea.
There it is.
Well, I will tell you, when I watch games at home, I don't want to watch them with anybody except myself. I try not to call anybody. I think I get focused in as a former coach, someone who's been involved in it for so long. Unfortunately, my girlfriend has to call me and say, well, what do you think? What do you think? I said, well, we'll talk about it later. And she goes, well, that's not a good sign. I said, well, it's probably a stop sign. So I don't like to be around anybody. I know Gary Paskowitz, our late publisher, always used to tell me, I don't want to be around anybody when the game is being played. And he didn't have to explain it to me. I understood it because I felt it. All right, halftime is over. Let's go into the third quarter. Tell me, guys, what you think of the expanded college football playoffs in general, and how do you think it'll affect USC? So we'll start off with Erik.
I figured you'd come to me first. I was going to wait until Chris said something and then just say the exact opposite of whatever he had for that.
Erik likes being wrong.
I think I like the idea of expanding it. I think 4 doesn't make sense. Boy, does it kind of matter what college football looks like going down. And you're talking about conference expansion and changing over and doing all that sort of stuff. Taking 4 teams to the playoff, I don't think is enough. Is 12 too much? I like the 8 number, making sure that you've got, what's a power conference right now with what the Big 12 is going to look like, but making sure everybody got in if you won your conference, and then a couple other teams. I think that's a good thing. It's clear George Glaukop, the new Pac-12 commissioner, the only thing he says right off the top, the Pac-12 wants expanded playoff. That's what we want. That's what we want. The other commissioners kind of talk, hey, we're going to discuss it. We're going to figure it out. He's very clear that he wants that. And I do think that a lot of what he does as Pac-12 commissioner now doesn't necessarily come straight from USC, but I do think a lot of how the Pac-12 is going to operate under him has to do with pushing USC's agenda and Oregon and those top teams. So if he's saying something forcefully, my take certainly is that USC is on board with what he's pushing. So I think, getting a Pac-12 team in there, the best way you're going to do it at this point is expanding it. You wish that the Pac-12 had those teams, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Clemson, Alabama, those teams that are going every year. I mean, you look at a list of kind of the playoff participants. It's just these 5 teams over and over and over and over, and then you got 2 from the Pac-12 years ago. But I do think ultimately expanding it helps USC, and I think it helps college football. I think it'll be kind of fun to see that. You're already losing so much of kind of the regional aspect of college football. You got Oklahoma and Texas going down and playing these SEC teams. You've got Utah and Colorado have been part of the Pac-12 forever. So the fact, the idea of you're going to dilute the regular season, that's already happened. Even, talking to going back to the BCS and things like that, where all we do now is talk about the playoff. So let's get some more teams in there and make it interesting.
All right, Kev.
Yeah, look, it's laid and played. It's going to happen. We've totally unmoored college football from its traditional its traditions, really, honestly. So the bowl series and some of the games and some of the rich tradition and histories that have been built up over the years are, to a large extent, they're really gone. So now what you get in place of it are some really good marquee matchups with some powerhouse football teams, and that's going to be enhanced with a expanded college football playoff. The big question for the Pac-12 is, can you get SC to be the the tallest lily in the field here, which is required. Otherwise, we end up with Oregon going into a bowl game, and we know we don't want to see that.
Chris?
Yeah, I think expansion makes sense. If we expanded to 32, I think Clay would make the playoff at least 3/4 of the time. And but there's been a monkey wrench thrown into the whole thing because with Oklahoma and Texas going over to the SEC, what we thought made sense before might not make sense anymore. I mean, you're talking about having conference winners and some at-larges. Conference winners from what? The Big 12? I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. And if the SEC is going to have half the blue bloods in college football, I think that there are probably going to have to be some other significant changes coming down the pike. And when that happens, we'll see what that means for the playoffs. But I mean, I know right now the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the ACC don't want to make significant changes. They want to band together in some sort of collective bargaining agreement and pretend that collectively they have as much juice as the SEC, but they don't. And if the California schools would simply leave the Pac-12, go to the Big 10, they make dramatically more money. The Big 10 would now be the second superpower, and we could leave Oregon for dead back in the old Pac-12. This is the outcome we've been looking for, and nobody has the courage to make it happen. We could kill the Ducks. They could combine with the Big 12, and they could have some sort of super conference of lousy teams that nobody cares about. It would be fantastic. But I don't know that we're going to have the guts to do it. Instead, we're going to let the SEC dominate college football, and the Pac-12 will become even more of an also-ran conference. And so, if we expand it to 100 teams, which includes every SEC team, and then whoever else you can fit in there, then I guess SC will make the playoff, and I guess that's better than not making.
All right, well, I'll make my answer short. I don't think you can have a national championship unless you have teams that are West Coast and East Coast. I could care less about strength of Pac-12. I could care less about the superpowers, the SEC. If you're going to have a national tournament and call somebody a national champion, it's got to be a field that at least opens up, using the NCAA basketball tournament as example, where everyone involved, it's national interest. It will draw it will draw, we'll all watch it. Even if we got beat a lesser team, we'll still follow that lesser team because they beat our team, and we want to see how far I don't think they're going to lose the bowl games. They can work around it. I think this idea, I think every conference should have their champion in it. That being said, we're going to go into the fourth quarter here. We're going to have the traditional lighting of the imaginary Coliseum torch. Okay, so we're all fired up about that. We turn our attention now to San Jose State Spartans. I don't know if you guys got to watch the game on TV. I watched it. They're very organized. They have a good quarterback. He knows what he's doing. They play tough. But I want to hear what your thoughts are. So, Chris, you lead us off on that.
This is a real game. It's a real game. I mean, San Jose State had a lot of success last year. They have a pretty good quarterback coming back. I think they're going to come in confident. And if USC doesn't jump on them right away, I think that confidence could grow. USC has not played a good opening game in Clay Helton's tenure. As much as I'd like to think they will, that's not where the safe money is. I think we're likely to see a team that struggles a little bit. And I think the Trojans will win. I think the Trojans will win by about 10, but I bet that game is going to be tied or close to tied going into the fourth quarter, and we're going to be nervous.
Eric?
Yeah, I really like the San Jose State coach. I think Brent Brennan, the fact that they got him back, he's a guy that was talked about for a few different jobs in the offseason. Got a chance to listen to his press conference on Monday, and it was the kind of answers where you could tell there was a little bit of confidence there. He shoveled a bunch of praise at USC, made kind of a mention, if we want to show, get a look at that same speed and size, we'll need to get the 49ers to come over here. So there was enough of that, but he also said a lot, look, we just need to play. We need to go down and play. There's a lot of talk when Fresno State plays USC, that whole, we're going to go down there and beat the glamour team, USC. A ton of San Jose State kids are from Southern California. They're going to come in with that same kind of enthusiasm and want to, in terms of coming down and playing well in the Coliseum. It's a good team. USC, I think Nick Starkel, the San Jose State quarterback, is fine. I think USC has a major advantage there with the way Keaton Slovis is throwing the ball this fall during camp and during practices. He looks phenomenal. This USC team, I think they feel like they need to come out and play well. I do think that getting a full season with these defensive coaches, these defensive coaches that USC has, being able to see them now a full spring, a full fall, these are different dudes. These are you go back to kind of some of Pete Carroll's defensive guys that just were seemingly out of their minds at some point, at some points during practice. That's kind of rubbed off on the defense and trickled over to the offense too. We talked earlier about kind of, does the offensive line have it? They feel like they do. They feel like they're getting there. Again, it's a show me. There's no way that you can say, yeah, they're going to run San Jose State out of the building, because it just hasn't happened. That Chris talking about kind of how they play in that first game. I do think ultimately though, that USC looks better in this game, in this first game, than they have in the past. I think it's been undersold how much last season and the off season and all that disjointed, whatever, where are we going to play? Are we not going to play? Where can we work out? Where can we do this? I think that's been undersold at how much that affected last year's team and the season for USC. I think this off season has been really good. And we may be back here next week and I'm talking about, wow, I really kind of oversold them, but I think they're going to come out and play well. I think San Jose State is enough of a team that gets them up. It's not Western Michigan. It's not UNLV. This is a San Jose State team that had a good season last year, and they're going to get USC's attention.
Kev?
Yeah, well, San Jose State is not going to sneak up on USC. We understand they're a good football team. They're not a great football team. They're a good football team. They've got one game under the belt against a very inferior opponent. They made 11 penalties in that game. Sound familiar?
Well, technical difficulties, as they say in the communication world. So we'll move on here. I will give my opinion while we try to get Kevin worked out here. I think the one thing you can't underestimate about San Jose State is the fact that they're defending conference champions. When you have won a championship, you think like a champion. The hardest thing is to become a champion. But once you do, you can think about, we are good enough or we wouldn't be here. The coaches will tell you from the first game to the second game, there's a huge improvement between teams. I don't know that San Jose State can improve that much to pull an upset, but I suppose anything is possible. They have a veteran quarterback. I like their defensive lineman Hall. I think he's pretty good. I think SC will be ready to play. How can you not be ready to play on the first game? But going back again to what something that Chris alluded to, each quarter that San Jose State hangs in there, they start getting a second win and a belief that they can do it. I don't know if this SC team is going to start thinking maybe they can do it. I think it's going to be a very competitive game, though. I think it's going to be competitive. I'm anxious to see the type of fan involvement, how many people show up at the Coliseum for the game. So that being said, I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready for some football myself. So while we try to figure out what's happened with Kevin, we're going to keep, we'll wrap things up here with what I call overtime. We'll make it very quick. Overtime, we're going to ask our panel to give me some predictions on Pac-10 teams that are playing this week. So we're kind of going to go around the horn. I'll start it off and we'll kind of go around and keep things flowing here. We'll keep tabs on this and keep a leaderboard throughout the season, and we'll go from there. So first of all, Thursday night, September 2nd, Weber State is at Utah. I'm picking Utah in a rout. Chris?
That's a bold call, Greg. I didn't even know Weber was a state. Whatever. If Utah plays the team with the pulse, I'll be interested. 40-2 Utes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Eric?
you know, Utah by a million. I think Utah is
By a million.
a lot of talk about Arizona State this year, USC in the South. I think Utah brings back some interesting pieces. Yeah.
All right, we got a Southern Utah University at ASU. I'll say ASU names the score. Arledge.
40-2 again.
Yeah, Arizona State by 1,000,001. I think that team is ready to go after an offseason of questions. I think we can call it.
Well, look who's back. Kevin, you're back. Did you do this during your playing career? You just left the field and then came back after you had been done doing whatever you do?
What do you think?
Hey, Kevin texted me when you got dropped. He's picking Weber State over Utah. So let's just get that locked in and we can move on.
Oh,
Okay, so-
I'm, yeah, sorry, go ahead, guys.
We're going to make this official, Kevin. We're not too far into it. Weber State at Utah, your pick, sir?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, actually. I've got Utah 42-14.
Okay, what
Wait,
about?
Wait, no, Greg, stop. I want to point out that Kevin Bruce is checking his notes before giving a prediction on Weber State versus Utah. That's what happened. I just saw it.
But you know what? That's
Yes.
why he was the captain of the 75 team. He leaves no stones unturned.
I
He's an
appreciate the
informed
depth
person.
of research. No, I'm with you.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, Chris,
Kev,
when I
what
do
about Southern
predictions,
Utah?
yeah, I don't believe in guessing. I believe in putting a little science behind what I'm doing, contrary to some of my colleagues here.
Well,
Well, we won't mention any
Research your
names
notes.
now.
hey, Kevin, research your notes and let us know whether University of Northern Colorado is going to beat Colorado. Do you have a workup on that one?
I do actually.
All right.
When we
Did
get
you
to
give
it.
us the, did you give us, Kevin, the Southern Utah University at ASU? Did you get that one?
Yeah, I got it 49-10.
Okay. All right. So we're back on track here. So Kevin, you can just stay and tell us what you think of Friday, September 3rd, University of Northern Colorado at Colorado.
Yeah, I've got a 34-10 on that one.
In favor of?
Colorado.
Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Chris,
40-2.
in favor of?
Come on. Don't even ask me that question.
Okay, you're a lawyer. We stick with the facts. We're not
I think the Buffaloes win that.
Okay, that's what we want to make sure. I'm going to go with the Buffaloes as well. Eric,
Do you guys know for a fact that the University of Northern Colorado is not also the Buffaloes?
I don't know that.
It's Ralphie versus not Ralphie.
So I got I got 30 Colorado 35 to 10.5. I'm gonna get Kevin on the spread there. I'm gonna price this right him.
okay, we're gonna move on here to Saturday, September 4th, the big Saturday. Start off with Stanford at Kansas State. I'm picking Kansas State. Eric,
No, I think Stanford gets Kansas State. I think Stanford has they've kind of taken a nap for a little bit, but I think they're going to come out okay this year.
okay, Kevin, what do you have there for Stanford at Kansas State?
Stanford 31, K-State 27.
Okay, Chris.
K-State close. Stanford is slipping. They're not the program they were 5 years ago. They're turning back into the old Stanford. They'll win some games, but they're just not that good.
Okay, Fresno State at Oregon is very intriguing. Fresno State had a big crushing win over UConn this last time out. Oregon's gotten a lot of hype. It's at Autzen Stadium. I'm going with Oregon, but I think it's a tough game, and I wouldn't be shocked if it turns into a lot closer than the odds have it. Eric?
I will be shocked if that's close. The Fresno State win over UConn, I might take Southern Utah over UConn at this point. I think this Oregon team is good. I think they're out to prove themselves on a national stage, and that's a home game for them. I think they roll.
Okay, Kevin?
Yeah, I got Oregon 49 and Fresno State 38.
Wow. Okay, Chris?
Oregon's going to roll. I hope they don't. I hope Fresno State either wins or that a meteor strikes the stadium, but I think it's going to be Oregon big.
Okay, let's look at Oregon State at Purdue. That's at Ross-Ade Stadium. I've been there in East Lafayette. I think it's Purdue Boilermaker victory over the Beavers. Eric?
That's fine. Sure. I'll take Purdue. I mean, looking at all the games on here, that's one that that could have been any two teams showing up and playing. I like Jonathan Smith at Oregon State. That's he played there. That's a good coach team fit. I like them. They're gonna have to show me kind of something this year to prove that they can go win on the road. So yeah, I'll take Purdue.
Okay. Next.
That was a lot of words for an Oregon State Purdue game. Look, I don't care. Purdue probably wins this one, but nobody here cares.
I mean, nobody here cares.
You don't care about Oregon State Purdue, and neither do our
Kevin's about to get into his research here, and so just sit back.
Well, the request was that we would have scores. I don't see anybody else having the wherewithal to put their scores out there. Just kind of a binary choice. I think we need to really kind of get a little bit more exposure here. Anyway, but on this,
that mandatory next Tuesday.
Well, clearly I'm too compliant in following the instructions here. So won't happen again, guarantee on that. Hey, look, spent a lot of gray matter on Purdue versus Oregon State. So I got a 31-14 Purdue.
Okay, well, Washington State at Montana, no brainer. Washington, go Dogs, keep barking. Eric?
Yeah, okay, so 51-9 Washington. There you go.
Wow, how'd you get it 9?
We're kicking field goals.
You don't think they'll score that many?
Sure. Well, we're scoring. If I'm Montana, we're scoring. We're kicking a field goal early to make sure we don't get shut out. We're scoring a touchdown late, and obviously we're going for 2, and we don't get it.
All right, Kev, what do you got?
Yeah, look, I had 49-7. So.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, Dogs.
40-2.
All right. Well, now we can get serious. LSU at UCLA. I thought UCLA looked nice. They look better than they've been. I think Hawaii is horrible. The fan interest was non-existent, basically. They say that that's not going to happen this week. We'll see about that. I am going to go with the Ed Ogerons of Baton Rouge. Okay, over the Bruins. Eric?
Yeah, I think LSU is going to win, but I'm going to pick UCLA because I want Chris to follow this up and see if his head doesn't explode. LSU, they're not in Baton Rouge. The Hurricanes forced them out. They've got kind of an odd prep week for that. It pains me to say it. UCLA, they finally kind of know who they are. They've got 2 really good running backs. They don't have to let Dorian Thompson-Robinson really do anything, which I think is that's when they're at their best offensively. Zach Charbonnet was a huge addition for them. I think that they have a chance to be able to run it against LSU. I think they've got a better shot than what the schedule looked like when this thing was first announced.
Okay, Kev?
Yeah, I agree with Eric. I think UCLA is a solid football team, at least early in the season. They still have time to do what they typically do. But I have LSU at 38, UCLA 35.
All right. Chris?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be closer than most USC fans want to think. UCLA is a decent team. To win this game, I think they need DTR to play well. I'm not sure he will. He's streaky and inconsistent, but he can play a little bit. The Bruins can run. I think UCLA is an 8-win team. I just don't think this is going to be one of them. LSU by a touchdown.
Okay. BYU, who will be seeing in the 12th game of the season for USC, they're traveling over to Tucson to play Arizona. I think that even though that BYU is going to be breaking in a new quarterback to replace Zach Wilson, I can't get sentimental about this. I think that BYU will win. Eric?
That's actually the first Vegas kickoff game at the Raiders Allegiant Stadium, on track to be the most watched football game in the state of Nevada already. So that's going to be fun. That's the same game that USC is going to play LSU at in a couple of years. There's so much optimism about Jedd Fisch. I think he has really done a lot of good things since he's shown up at Arizona. I think there's a chance that hits the wall, and that's just not a very good Arizona team. I think BYU wins.
Okay. For correction, the game is being played in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like 15 yards on me.
Kevin's got that in his research.
I do, actually.
He knew.
Yeah,
Well, that's why he's Kevin. That's why he's a captain.
that's
All
right.
right. Next, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, BYU, I have BYU at 42 and Arizona at 17.
All right. And Chris?
If Arizona football were a horse, it would have been shot and turned to glue years ago. Arizona's horrible. BYU wins easy.
Sounds like a prediction. All right. Nevada, which is, I think, a fairly decent team, picked maybe by some to win the Mountain West Conference. Nevada's at Cal. I always question Cal's offense under Justin there, Wilcox. I'm going to pick Cal, though, because I think that Cal defensively is always strong under this guy. And it's a question of who's going to score the more points. So I still think Cal can do it. So I'm going to pick Cal.
I think it's almost always a question of who's going to score more points, Greg. And I agree with you that it's likely to be Cal. They'll probably only score 20. That should be enough.
All right. We completed that one. The final couple here. Utah State.
Well, the other guys didn't get to make their prediction, and Kevin has 6 hours of research on this one.
Actually, I've got Cal 48, Nevada 17.
48? Cal doesn't score 48 points over the course of 4 games.
Yeah, until they play Nevada.
All right.
All right. We have Utah State at Washington State. I guess Rolovich will be on the sidelines, inoculated, but I don't know if he'll be wearing a mask. But I don't think it'll make any difference. I think Washington State will beat the Utah State Aggies. That's how I see it. Eric?
Yeah, close. I don't think Washington State is great this year. 21-17, something like that.
Kevin?
Utah State 42, Washington State 44.
He tricked us. He gave it to us in reverse order. Look, Utah State is supposed to be terrible. Utah State is supposed to be terrible. I'm pretty sure they will be terrible. I'm pretty sure the game will be terrible. If it's on TV, I hope I don't accidentally turn it on. Washington State by a field goal.
All right. Now to the big one. San Jose State at USC. I'm going to pull a John McKay. If San Jose State plays as well as they can play, and USC plays as well as they can play, USC is going to win. Eric?
And I got hit with the wishy-washy answer up at the top of the show. 42-28, I've got SC. I think there's some big plays on both sides. That's kind of the USC defense. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to go all out. And San Jose State, I think, has enough, stuff to score a couple touchdowns. But I think that USC offense puts up definitely enough points to win.
Kevin?
Yeah, USC 38, San Jose State 24.
And Mr. Venom?
21-21 when the torch gets lit, 34-24 Trojans for the final.
All right. So we're all in agreement that USC is going to be 1-0 when they play Stanford in the conference opener. So let me remind all of our fans who are with us, USC does play San Jose State in the Coliseum on Saturday. Kickoff is 2 p.m. It'll be shown on the Pac-12 networks. A reminder that next Tuesday, we'll review the San Jose State game and preview the Pac-12 conference opener against Stanford Cardinal in the Coliseum. That'll be a 7:30 kickoff. And we also will talk about selected topics as we did today. So I want to thank our panel. You guys were great. And until I talk with you again, hopefully next Tuesday, I wish you all a pleasant week and fight on, everybody.
Fight on, guys.
Right on.